Welcome to this news hour on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, security threats looms over the Limbe Middle Farm Stadium ahead of the African Nations Championship. Two heavy-duty construction equipment of a private company are set ablaze. That happened last night. That was last night, close to the Middle Farm Stadium. We'll bring to you updates with our correspondents in this edition of the newscast on Equinoxe Television. Honorable Tomaino Ndamjoya, Mayor of Fumban in the West region of Cameroon, decries abuse of power by some administrative authorities and injustice against the population of the Nun division in the West region. The municipal authority says she was a victim during the installation of the senior divisional officer of the Nun division. Also in this newscast, we will show you the deplorable state of the road linking the country's economic capital, Douala, and Yabasi in the Nkam division. 4 years after a 22 billion francs rehabilitation project started on that road, it is still in a bad state. We begin in the opacity of Limbe in the crisis-hit southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where the threats of insecurity are rising ahead of the African Nations Championship, and notably around the Middle Farm Stadium in that part of the country, one of the stadia that will host encounters and training stations during the 2020 African Nations Championship. Two heavy-duty construction missions of a private company were set ablaze close to that sport amenity last night. Davidson Maimo finds in updates from Limbe, plus how ready is the town of Limbe to welcome the African Nations Championship.
Almost circulated that part of the Limbe Omnisport Stadium has been burnt down. But behind me is what actually happened. Road construction equipment belonging to a private company stationed behind the Middle Farm Stadium, one of the training stadia, burnt by suspected separatists. It is alleged separatists are burnt to make sure the African Championship sham does not take place in Limbe by instilling fear in the minds of the people of Limbe. Away from insecurity, city dwellers are equally worried on the frequent electricity power outage that has been noticed for the past few days.
With the African Nations Cup already in place, if there's no constant light, how shall we be watching our matches? So I think the government should do everything possible to make a new, to put light constantly all over the region. I will be happy as it go on and off. So many travel repeats off, make all the things okay. So I man no one pay for a program, and they like you go off. So you are worried, like my award. They try as at this. Some position don't come from our own side. Many times we say the life be steady for any man for enjoy. One for sleep, one for fee anywhere.
Sources within hinted this reporter that the recent frequent electricity power outage is due to ongoing works to prevent any power failure during the competition. Also, unfinished works at the parking lot in front of the Limbe Centenary Stadium is another issue.
Teams that are taking part in Limbe are supposed to use this stadium as far as the training exercise is concerned, and yet the work is unfinished. In fact, contractors are still doing finishing touches as far as the Centenary Stadium is concerned.
Though road works in some areas to widen the major street into the city and the construction of pedestrian paths are yet to be completed.
I'm not sure that they will meet the deadline because so many projects are going on. Cameroon, they like fire approach, a fire brigade approach. These are things they would have done long ago. But it is now that they are fighting. I see them running up and down. A lot of money being spent, but we don't see the things on ground.
Enormous job has been done to get the city ready.
Behind me, find the street, how beautiful they are. With the tarmac, easing road users to actually move freely and be equally circulation and avoid unnecessary accidents.
Generally, both local and central authorities are fine-tuning last-minute strategy for a hitch-free football jamboree.
We are exactly at the heart of the city of Limbe. This area is called a half-mile vicinity. As you can see behind me, work is ongoing in putting in place a giant TV screen for the peace and football-loving population of Limbe, not to miss a second as far as the African Championship tournament is concerned. Davidson Maimo, by Équinoxe TV, live in Limbe.
Thank you, Davidson Maimo, reporting there from the opaque city of Limbe in the southwest region of the country. Now we're going to take you to Fumban in the non-division west region of the country, and the mayor of that administrative unit, Fumban, is decrying abuse of power by some administrative authorities and injustice against the population of the non-division. Mayor Tomaino Ndamjoya says she suffered such abuse of power by administrative authorities during the installation of the senior divisional officer of the non-division. Innocent as the facts in details.
The ceremonial ground in Fumban is the installation of the new senior divisional officer for the non-division. Donasie takes over functions from Donasie Boyomo, transfers to the East region. All started well until when speeches began. While official program first previews the welcome speech of the Fumban mayor, it is rather an elite and traditional rulers who took the microphone. This shocked the population gathered, and which prompted Mayor Patricia Tomaino Ndamjoya to interrupt the speeches. The traditional ruler of Fayum, who before then was speaking, ended his speech in this riot without being heard. Authorities finally decided to give the floor to the mayor. In an over 20-minute speech, Patricia Ndamjoya denounces egoism reigning in the community.
Les intérêts personnels égoïstes afin de faire vivre l'ambition pour la nation.
She criticizes self-interest before affairs of the community or the state, non-respect of republican laws, and non-adoption of civilization comportments by some administrative authorities.
Des lois de la République et des règles du standard minimum de civilisation.
She as well denounces and baptized the act, prompting the riot as a clear attack on decentralization and repeated abuses on authorities.
Des abus du pouvoir et d'autorité, avec les nombreuses injustices qui en découlent.
She throws the arrow at administrative authorities and traditional rulers of the regime's party for endless injustice against the population. Mayor Tomaino urges the population to consider what just happened as an eye-opener so as not to fall into the dragnet of the administrative authorities.
Une fois arrivé dans le Loul, au lieu de servir la République, de devenir vassaux.
Taking over, the West Governor proceeded with installation of the new civil administrator, urging him to bring calm, development, cohesion, and peace in the division.
Madame le maire, la sérénité, le développement, la cohésion et la paix.
Mayor Tomaino Ndamjoya, in a correspondence, demands Governor Awafonka Augustine to grant her excuses for downplaying her position.
Mayor Tomaino Ndamjoya says that what happened during that ceremony is an attack on the decentralization process, the process which is well on course with the putting in place of the regional councils in the littoral region of the country. The regional executive members have been commissioned into their functions. The regional council president Polycarp Banlock and his collaborators were commissioned into their functions today at the Littoral Court of Appeal. And of course, as they were being commissioned into their functions, they were urged to take up duty as soon as possible. Before that, we talk about the free trade zone. Cameroon is part of the free trade zone on the African continent, and the Minister of Trade, Luc Makloambarga Tangana, and other authorities, other stakeholders and business persons were discussing the issues concerning the free trade zone and how Cameroon can get the best out of the free trade zone. Not only Cameroon, but the Central African Economic and Monetary Community, which entered the free trade zone as a bloc, negotiating some of the agreements, the clauses of the agreement that brings together 54 countries into a free trade zone. And there are three categories of products that are that will be witnessing the removal of custom dues. In the first category, over 90% of the custom dues will be removed for a period of over 10 years. And in the second category of products, which will last for over 13 years, 77% of custom dues will be removed for a period of over 13 years. The third category concerns products which the minister says the country is not ready to open up its market to the free zone as far as those goods are concerned, notably including cement, palm oil, refined vegetable oil, and others which are considered as priority products for the government. Now take a listen to the Minister of Trade and the representative of the Regional Bureau President or Director of the Economic Commission for Africa.
Is to develop our industry, to develop our production. It's what we said that we will need to produce more, to process locally our products, and to be able to sell our products inside the continent. So we think that this is the best way, to develop our economy. We are a strong continent. We have a large population. We are among the biggest regional area in the world, just after China. But we have never done what we had to do, to develop trade between our countries. So everyone, I take the example of our youth. They will have opportunity to work, to produce, and also to sell. Because without market, you can produce, but if you have not market, you will not sell. So this opportunity now to open is a free, open market.
There are many countries in Africa which are well developed with strong industrial stem compared to others which are at the infancy stage. So competition between these will require that some sectors be protected. That's why the honorable minister talked about the infant industry in Cameroon, which needs to be protected. If you open up a sector where South Africa or Morocco, for example, is far advanced, and Cameroon will not be able to compete. That's why we adopted a phasing approach, where some little industry would be actually protected and carried out so that they reach a level where they can compete. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is related to strengthening some of our institutions, the metrology itself, where what we call, for example, aspirin in Cameroon should be the same in Central Africa. So we still have some harmonization in terms of policy and institutions to put in place if we want to succeed. And again, what we need is to understand that a single country today would not fill the entire value chain. There is a concept of regional and sub-regional value chain where we are just actors of part of segment of this. We need to strengthen this.
And I told you earlier, the members of the regional executive for the littoral region have been commissioned into the functions. The regional president, Polycarp Banlock, have taken over command. They took the oath of service today at the Littoral Court of Appeal, and the decentralization process is well on course after the regional elections and the election of the regional council executives. And Polycarp Banlock says that his major priority will be roads across the littoral region, among other 4 major areas of interest that he highlighted with regards to the discharge of his duties, and of course the work that he and his collaborators at the level of the regional council will be doing in the days ahead after officially taking over office, after officially being sworn in today in the Littoral Court of Appeal. Take a listen to Polycarp Banlock. He is the president of the Littoral Regional Council.
My roadmap is already prepared. I want to work on the road development, and I want to work on electricity, water, health, and school. That is the 5 positions I want to clarify in Littoral.
Coming up for me, Armstrong Sander takes us on the perilous journey from Douala to Yabassi in the Kam division, all in the littoral region of the country. 4 years down memory lane, and over 22 billion francs CFA project to rehabilitate that road started, but till date the road is still in a bad state. His report.
From the PK14 market to PK21 is a 7-kilometer stretch of hell for road users and local inhabitants. Their misery varies depending on seasons. Mud is the problem during the rainy season, and dust is the problem during the dry season. That has provoked a hike in transportation, as we pay 1,000 francs CFA from PK21 to PK14. It is not possible to leave our windows open again. The dust is unbearable. January, in the heart of the dry season, the situation is worse as every activity in the area dances to the melody of the dust. Locals, commercial motorbike riders, and petty traders are the primary victims. I sell dresses, but people no longer come to buy because the dresses are dirty. Dust has spoiled our businesses.
So that does the over-worry with. As I build my house,
our businesses have been adversely affected. As bike riders, we are forced to park our bikes for the dust to settle each time a heavy-duty vehicle passes by. A key observation is a loss in the beauty of women and men in the area each time they step out of their houses. This woman says they have now adopted the habit of veiling their faces each time they are about to go out. Some have decided to be taking along different sets of dresses, to and from PK14, and local inhabitants see another negative effect of the dust is that of frequent cough, flu, and related health complications. The people had to block circulation recently in order to have the road watered once by local officials. The people now struggle at individual levels to get different sections watered, like this lady who has been doing so for over a year. The second phase of the PK14-PK21 stretch is that of large potholes, almost transformed into swimming pools by the most recent drops of rain in Cameroon's economic capital city, Douala. The muddy, swimming pool-like and bumpy stretch of road presents a foretaste of what users go through in the rainy season. Locals say this image runs from PK14 to PK17, where there is another campus of the University of Douala. At the launch of construction work on this stretch, delivery was promised for April 2019, but 1 year, 8 months after, works are still on a stop to the disappointment of local inhabitants. Let them come and finish their work. This road has been under construction for over 4 years without any improvement. It was even better before the start of the project. We even had a little tar. They came and destroyed everything. This stretch of road, PK14, PK21, is part of a contract of over 22 billion francs CFA for the tarring of the over 45 kilometers distance between Douala in the Vuri division of the Littoral region and Bonapopa in the Kam division of the same region. When will construction works resume is the question from local inhabitants.
Latest information streaming into our newsroom indicates that FIFA President Gianni Infantino will be in Cameroon in the days ahead. He's expected to witness the opening game of the African Nations Championship that would pit host nation Cameroon against Zimbabwe. In the meantime, the Confederation of African Football has selected 47 referees to handle matches of the 6th edition of the African Nations Championship. Out of the 47, 3 from host country Cameroon, among them Alum, Elvis Guy, Nupwe, and a lady at the Zambon, Karin. And CAF also gives the opportunity to 4 female referees. Smanjikan Gebre has the details in this report.
Mabruk Cameroon. Attention will be focused on the 4 women referees who were maintained by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, to handle games at the African Nations Championship. It is the first time women will be given this task. Amongst the lucky 4 given the baptism of fire is Cameroon's Atezambong Fomo Karin, who will play the role of an assistant referee. I'm a very happy woman and I feel accomplished because it is not everyone who has been selected. It is the first time CAF is putting trust on female referees for this competition. I have no pressure. Shan isn't different from Cameroon's championship games. For me, the matches will just be like Elite 1 matches. I will handle the games just like I did when I traveled to Congo to handle TP Mazembe's game.
C'est un match coton UMS, donc il n'y a pas de pression sur le championnat.
And she says where the soccer lions will falter, the referees will carry the country's flag higher.
Tout ce que je peux promettre.
All I can promise is that Cameroonian referees will give our best to ensure the country's flag remains at the top. It's in our country. If the players can't give us the best, the referees will do that.
Ils ne le font pas, nous les arbitres, nous le font.
Apart from Cameroon's Atezambong Karin, Nigeria, though out of the competition, are represented by an assistant referee in the person of Mimisen Iyohe Agata.
Very excited, very happy to be here, and hopefully we're going to do the best that we can to prove that women desire of this position that they have been given. I have done 2 Women African Cup of Nations and 2 regional WAFU tournaments. I'm happy and delighted to be here as a Nigerian. I feel like it's home because we are just neighbors. So the weather, the food, the people, everything is accommodating, and I feel like I'm home. There's no difference between here and Nigeria.
Another female assistant referee is Benedicta Quimbira of Malawi, the lone female referee who will handle matches at the competition is Ethiopia's Abebe Lydia Tafese. Evehe Raphael Divine has been chosen by CAF as an instructor during this competition.
Aujourd'hui, on revient sur une nouvelle philosophie.
Today we have a new philosophy. Women don't have enough competition.
La chance de pouvoir diriger les matchs.
We have to give them the opportunity to handle games played by men.
Officiel qui les exigences.
It is the first time such is happening in an official tournament. This will also prepare them for women's games.
Pouvoir leur donner cette occasion de diriger les matchs des hommes et également, n'est-ce pas, leur donner le rythme, n'est-ce pas, pour pouvoir soutenir lors de leur compétition des femmes.
Cameroon also has 2 men referees in the competition in Elvis Guinupei and Alium Sidi. Alium Sidi will be the lone Cameroonian referee to handle matches during the competition. A total of 47 referees were selected by the Confederation of African Football for CHAN 2020. 19 central referees, 20 assistant referees, and 8 video assistant referees, which will be the first time CAF is deploying such technology for the competition. The African Nations Championship begins Saturday with Cameroon to confront Zimbabwe.
Smanji Kangibre ending this first part of the news. Coming up next, Talking Point. Joining us from South Africa, Professor Henry Famundem. He is a pharmaceutical and public health expert with many years working in several countries across the African continent. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Professor Henry Famundem, as I indicated earlier, is a pharmaceutical care and public health expert with many years working in several African countries in the areas of academia and public health. And he served as a member of the National Clinical Trials Committee at the Medicine Regulatory Authority in South Africa for over 6 years. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
All right, we're going to be talking about the new variant of the coronavirus pandemic, which is said to be spreading very fast in South Africa. What's the situation there?
Well, thank you very much. Let's just start by giving some background on viruses. This is something that was expected with the viruses. And what you normally would do when you have a viral infection like this is to make sure that you continue to monitor, and this is what is called genomic sequencing. So genomic sequencing is going to be able to tell you if you have new strains or not. And so because South Africa has that infrastructure, they did their genomic sequencing and they were able to find out that they have a variant. And following to it, the variant has become the predominant virus that is spreading. And viruses mutate a lot because they're looking to survive. And you know that technically viruses are not living organisms. So one of the goals that they have is to make sure that they invade living cells, which in this case is humans. They have to replicate, and then they have to spread within a host or between the various hosts. So the variant, which is found in South Africa, which is N501Y, it's known to be more transmissible. And so it's transmitting a lot faster than the original virus that we had. And it has increased viral load. So it divides a lot and it multiplies very fast as a way of surviving. And so we also know that the original one was not very common in attacking younger people. This particular variant, we're seeing it in people who are about 10 years and older. And the good news about it, which they thought, was the fact that the disease that is caused by this variant is not very severe. But that theory may be disputed because it was too earlier on. Because in South Africa, as of yesterday, about 800 people died. The day before, 700 and something people died. We've had a total of 35,000 people that have died of COVID in South Africa, which is way less than the number of people that have tested positive in Cameroon. And just to add to it, it's not only in South Africa that we're seeing this variant. There are a couple of them in the UK has reported, Japan has reported, and the people of Japan reported because of people that were traveling from Brazil. And so this is something that is not only going to be with South Africa. We're going to see it spread in so many countries. And so it's just a matter of time. You're also going to see it in Cameroon.
Apart from the fact that it is spreading fast, or it is easily transmissible, what are the other specificities of this new variant?
Well, the specificity, like I said before, is the fact that when you take a viral load is the amount of virus that you find in the body. It's much higher with this. And like I said before, we're also seeing that a lot of younger people are being infected. And the specificity again, which it was concluded or very earlier on said, we don't think this virus, it's probably less severe than the original virus. But we don't think that we should be concluding that right now. And then earlier on, they've also come up with the fact that we think the 3 new vaccines that we have out should still be very effective. Because remember, the reason why viruses mutate is because they want to sustain. They're also fighting to make sure that they can sustain. And so you have a situation where if there's any, they do adapt, just like human beings adapt to a difficult situation. That's what viruses do. And in the kingdom of life, viruses are the microorganisms that do a lot of dividing. So mutation is very, very common with viruses. We saw it with HIV, and now we're saying with COVID. But we're very happy that in countries like South Africa, in the UK, in European countries, the genomic sequencing it's going on. And that's something that I know Cameroon may not be equipped for that, but I've read that they've sent samples out, and I think that's a good thing. And they will need to do it a couple of times a year to determine what kind of variants they're having in Cameroon.
What about the possibility of this new variant spreading not only in South Africa but across the African continent to other countries like Cameroon, which do not yet have the new variant, and then leading to a possible situation similar to what the World Health Organization had described earlier, when the director of the World Health Organization said Africa should prepare for the worst?
Well, that's exactly correct. The one in the UK was discovered before the one in South Africa. And that particular variant has been seen now in about 40 countries. The one in South Africa has been reported to have been seen in about 10 different countries. In the age of globalization, it's very difficult to prevent this. I mean, people who have to travel, they've been level 5 on travel bans all over the world, but it's a very difficult thing to sustain a travel ban. And so whenever you have a resistance like this, or a mutant or variant like this, it's just a matter of time that you're going to find it in many other countries. So the good news is that if it continues to stay that way, then the vaccines that we have should be able to respond to this variant.
What are the measures that have been put in place this far to prevent the further spreading of the virus within the South African territory?
They've done a lot. The president of the country, President Cyril Ramaphosa, he's done a lot. He's made it a more stringent level 3. Everybody was expecting that perhaps by now we should be at level 1, but he brought it up to level 3, which means that there will be no sale of alcohol, which is affecting the economy of the country. But which one is better? You want to be alive or the economy of the country, which is how they put it. And so there's a curfew from 9 p.m. up to 5 a.m. In the morning. And so there are a lot of stringent measures that have been put in place. Regrettably, it affects the economy of the country. The hospitality industry is crying, a lot of people, but these are the challenges. These are the only ways that you can put some control measures into it. And then as a country, besides working through WHO, South Africa is also arranging to make sure that they can get the vaccines in as a country, not going through WHO, which is a good way to do it. So on its own, they're trying to make sure that they can get the vaccines here as soon as possible.
All right, we're going to talk about the vaccine in a short while, but before that, what will you advise the other African countries where the new variant is not yet there, a country like Cameroon, to do in order to prevent the new variant from getting in and then contaminating the population?
first advice, because I watch a lot of news from various African countries, Cameroon in particular, is that a lot of people are just not taking the prevention measures very seriously. I think the government needs to double its efforts, but this is not something that is only left for the government. People in the community, the civil society, the private sector has to engage in this, because if this virulent and highly transmissible variant gets into Cameroon, then it's going to be spreading a lot. I mean, we said that before when COVID came, so I know people are very complacent because all the pundits got it wrong, because they thought 300,000 people were going to die in Africa, and it did not happen. So everybody's becoming complacent. But you have to remind people not to be complacent. The media has to be a partner in all of this, and to make sure. And then the second thing is to make sure that the African government, who don't have the infrastructure to do genomic sequencing, to be able to tell you what are the strains and the mutants that you have, they have to be able to engage and partner with some other countries where they can send samples. They can send it to South Africa, where it can be analyzed, so that you can know in advance, so that you can start taking measures.
All right, South Africa is looking forward to start administering the coronavirus vaccine, but is it easy to access that vaccine as of now?
Well, it is not easy for any country. There's something that we now call the vaccine nationalism. Every country is on its own fighting to get it, especially the developed countries, the countries that are very resourceful. Take a country like Canada with 37 million people. Canada is probably going to be the first country in the world that will probably have enough for about 80% of its population. So we'll probably get to the herd immunity that we're looking for very soon, because it's put a lot of money, and they were working on this a long time ago. Now, fortunately, there are two avenues for Africa. WHO is working through the COVAX, which is a group of about 190 countries, 100 and something countries, that donor funds are coming in, because a lot of the African countries are not capable of putting in the funds that are required to buy those vaccines. And then secondly, I was very pleased to see that the African Union is also trying to get. So through WHO, they're probably going to get about 600 million doses. 600 million doses is only going to cater for about 300 million people. This is a continent of sub-Saharan, about 1.2 billion people. So they can cater for 300 million people by maybe May or something like that. Through the African Union, I think the announcement came out today that securing about 270 million doses, which again is going to be 135 million people. That's not nearly enough. So a lot of work still has to be done, but that's because everybody's competing on it. And WHO is saying, wait a minute, because we don't want this nationalism where everybody is fighting. We need to be able to spread it, because if some of the African countries don't have it, people are going to travel, and they will carry it again to the UK, to the US. So it's something that WHO is fighting very hard to normalize.
A lot of things are being said here and there about the vaccine raising concerns, raising worries, raising doubts in the minds of Africans in particular, as far as the safety of that vaccine is concerned. What do you have to say about the safety of this vaccine? Is it safe for human consumption?
Well, I'm happy that people are getting concerned about safety. It's an area that I've worked, which you call pharmacovigilance and things like that. So from the people that have taken the vaccine so far, from the clinical trials, when the drug was being tested, we did not see a lot of adverse drug reactions. Now, the concern, which is, in theory, long-term side effects. But usually, with the long-term side effects, you begin to have an idea after about 2 months or 3 months, and we have that experience already. So we have an aggregate experience of about 6 months already or more for the people that were on the clinical trials. So the drug is generally, it's a safe drug, but there's no drug that is 100% safe. So they're gonna put it on your arm, you're gonna feel pains, you're gonna have some fever, you're gonna have some headache. But those are things that we have with a lot of different medications and a lot of vaccines that we take anyway. Now, this one has become very negative because of social media, because of people spreading conspiracy theories and things like that. I think the people should be advised that this is going to be safer for you to take than being exposed and going to the critical care unit or dying. In African countries where we don't have a lot of hospitals with ICUs, with oxygen available and ventilators available. So it's a safe drug, if you to answer your question.
What's your take about the conspiracy theories we're hearing here and there?
Well, conspiracy theories are always going to be there. We have conspiracy theories about everything that is happening in the world now, and people can spread it very easily because some people do conspiracy theory almost as a profession. I mean, there are a lot of people that have YouTube channels, and their job is to talk about conspiracy theories. And that's because it's very easy to the common mind to understand a conspiracy theory. It's very difficult to come up with a conspiracy, and people don't know that. Because a conspiracy means there are multiple people that are involved. Somebody is going to give out the details at some point. So conspiracy theories are not as frequent as people make it to seem. And people complain that, before when the clinical trials were going on, people were saying they're coming to do the trials in Africa, people should not take it. But a lot of the people that did the trials were in the US and in Europe. South Africa was one of the African countries that were part of the multi-country studies. And South Africa is very proud of it. They have the experience in their population. So the conspiracy theories, I mean, it's something that you may not convince everybody, but they are not, most of them, 90% of them are just not true. They're just people talking because they have access to the social media.
In Cameroon, a great proportion of the population is no longer respecting the anti-COVID-19 measures, especially the poor and low-income earners. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I think I just said it before, that it is not only the role, when a pandemic is affecting the entire population, it's not only the role of the government. The government has to take its own role of leadership, but the media, all of you in the media, the members of the community, community leaders will have to take a specific role, and then the individuals will have to exercise some kind of control. They will have to have responsibility for what they do. So there is not one particular person that you can blame here. Everybody will have to be involved. But the lead is definitely the government. The media will have to make sure that they're giving out the right information. Because we've seen some media outlets, and even here in South Africa, we've seen a situation where very high-level politicians are questioning. We saw this during HIV, and some of the people said HIV was not the cause of AIDS, but this is about 30 years running. They've not been able to disprove otherwise. So those are the kind of conspiracy theories that we had. Some of them said the drugs should not come to Africa. They were very toxic. This is HIV drugs. But look at what HIV drugs have done to this continent. They've saved a lot of lives. People are living, people are getting back to work and things like that. But if you are dependent on conspiracy theories at that time, a lot of people would have died. I mean, millions of people would have died on this continent for HIV. So these conspiracies are always working. We're not stopping people, I for one, from questioning, but you should ask the right questions. And you shouldn't spread information that is not verified.
Professor Henry Famundam, pharmaceutical care and public health expert with many years of experience working in several African countries in the area of academia and public health programs. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe comes up next.